Okay, my friends, stop everything you're doing right now, my friend. At this very moment, missile sirens are going off at the same time in 3 Gulf countries. Sirens are sounding in Jordan, sirens are sounding in Bahrain, and there are also reports of booms in Qatar right now. As I'm talking to you here live, the entire Gulf is flashing red. And Iran isn't firing for nothing, because the United States has just completed the 10th straight night of attacks over Iranian territory. And this time, the American Central Command handled it well from the beginning to the end of the operation. The 10th night is over and Iran is retaliating right now against its Arab neighbors. But this time, the American strikes went deeper than ever. Shiraz and Isfahan, the heart of the country, not just on the edge of the Strait of Hormuz, all of this in the last few hours. And in the middle of all this rush, there's a detail here that almost no one is noticing. And it changes the game, especially for Israel. A detail that even has its own name. And I saved it here to explain to you in a bit. So stay with me until the end, because the piece that connects everything I left for the end of this live, live from Israel, right where everything is happening. If you just joined, hit the like button now so you don't forget later. Local time is 2 o'clock in Israel. Live from Israel. Before I open everything here piece by piece, let me give you the framework for today's video. Yesterday I explained the double game to you. One hand shoots, the other negotiates on both sides. This still holds true, folks. It's still true even today. And you're going to see this again here. But today, there's a deeper layer beneath the double game. And here, I also have to admit, I find this satisfying. Because an Israeli researcher, someone really important, published an analysis that confirms exactly what I've been telling you here on the channel for a few days now. A well-respected specialist here in the region has now put a name to my interpretation. He called this the blindness strategy. And the idea is simple. And it's scary when you really understand it. Iran for now is making an effort not to drag Israel directly into the war. Israel not getting directly involved in this conflict, but according to him, this wouldn't be out of fear. This also wouldn't be out of kindness. It's a cold calculation. Because while Iran puts pressure on the Arab countries and the American presence in the Gulf, it gains advantages, wears them down, and forces negotiations. If it attacks Israel directly, it enters a completely different playing field where Israel is not seeking an agreement in any way. It seeks to collapse, dismantle, and completely undo the Revolutionary Guard. So Iran is keeping Israel out for now, but pay attention to the trap. It keeps Israel out for now while slowly peeling away, one by one, the layers of protection that exist in the region around Israel. It targets the radars, antennas, and alert systems spread across neighboring countries. It wears down the American interceptor batteries. And then, on the day it decides to turn against Israel, Israel will be alone, relying almost solely on its own shield. So remember this expression, because it will come up throughout the entire video, the blinding strategy. And now let's take a look at what happened last night, because the map of the targets tells the story. The stated objective was the same as always, to reduce the capability that Iran uses against ships here in this strait that you're seeing right now. But today, the location of the targets is the message. In Shiraz, the attack was directed at the Mount Daraka region, where according to Iranian sources, there are underground missile cities, in other words, more underground cities. So notice, this time it wasn't a surface depot, it's buried infrastructure, the heart of its launch capability. We don't know here if bombers and bunker-busting weapons were used, okay? The American command hasn't released that information, but that's probably what happened there. And in Sfahan, among the locations the Americans hadn't hit in this round yet, there were strikes there too. Sfahan is not just any place, for those who don't know or are hearing this name for the first time. In that location, there are facilities connected to Iran's nuclear program, and it wasn't just the center of the country. Down in the far south, there was also heavy fire on an airbase in Shabaha, which is another part of Iran's anti-shipping capability. For those who want to know where Shabaha is, it's right here, look. Right at the very end here. Let me locate it here, look. Right next to the border with Pakistan, okay? Right here, look, it's before the strait. Actually, it's far from the strait and this side of Pakistan. So add to that more fire over Bandar Abbas and Kersh Island, which is this one here, this big island here, huge in the strait. And Bandar Abbas is this city here, right here at the mouth of the strait. So notice the pattern that night. It hits the south at the edge of the strait and also goes up to the center of the country at the same time. Let's look at this other map showing where the targets were hit early this morning. It's an encirclement from both above and below on the same night. That's the pattern for 10 nights. It's this one. It's the same pattern. The Americans are gradually pushing the targets deeper and deeper into the country, and it's also being reported on the channels that follow this minute by minute that the next in line will be Tehran. Tehran is going to be targeted sooner or later in this escalation of American attacks, which are slowly moving up the map. Pay attention, there is no confirmation that the capital is already on the target list, but we know that they are probably part of this. This kind of talk only spreads when things get serious. The siege is already tight. The Iranian response reinforces the blinding strategy I've already explained, and that wave is already coming in, right? That wave that's happening now live, sirens in Jordan, sirens in Bahrain, and reports in Qatar. This is the Iranian response. And notice where it went. Because Iran didn't retaliate against Israel, it hit the Gulf neighbors and Jordan, and it announced through the Revolutionary Guard that it had taken an American radar system in Kuwait out of operation, a very important part of the air defense shield there. And here I also need to give you the right filter so you can understand. This is what Iran is claiming. It's the regime's propaganda claim, not an independent confirmation. Now more images have also circulated of the damage that happened at the American base there in Jordan. An American soldier is said to have recorded and posted this on his own social media to show the damage inside the base in Jordan. That soldier will likely be arrested soon, but the images are already online and spreading globally. I'll mention this in tonight's live stream. But even treating it as regime propaganda, the chosen target says it all. He aimed right at the eyes of the American shield in the region, radar, antenna, and warning system. The radar and antenna are responsible for the sirens. It's blindness in action right in front of you. And now pay attention, because this is a lesson on how propaganda works amid the fighting. Those shots that were just fired from Shiraz were sent toward the Gulf monarchies, Qatar, Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, all at the same time. And the Persian and Arab channels immediately started making huge claims. They're claiming that American ships were hit off the coast of Bahrain with cruise missiles and a drone. Right now, at this very moment, folks. So, they're even saying that the main American base in Qatar, Al Udeid, was also hit, but there hasn't been any official confirmation of this from the American side. And here you need to understand something important. Confirmation at this time is a rare thing from both sides. From the American side, confirmation almost never comes out at the same moment, right? It could come out in a week or 3 days. And from these Gulf countries, it's even less, guys. Even less because they have the habit of hiding what falls on their own territory so they don't appear weak. So the lack of confirmation doesn't mean it didn't happen, okay? And there's a detail here that no one can ignore. Propaganda or not, the regime really does have the capability to reach these countries. It's not that hard for them. And that's where my method comes in here, as I've already explained. For those who've been on the channel for a while, I've explained it several times. I even follow neighborhood groups, local groups within these countries to be able to confirm or debunk rumors, right? There's nothing better than hearing from the residents themselves. And the local residents in Qatar are saying right now that they haven't heard anything, no explosions or sirens, and this is where I want your help. If you follow me from Qatar, our followers in Qatar, write here in the comments if you heard anything there in Qatar at this exact moment. Explosion, siren, anything. Your report on the ground is worth more than 10 headlines. In other words, on one side, the regime is inflating things, on the other, silence on the ground. That's why I don't give you rumors here as if they were facts. I cross-check the source from above with those who are down there, with real people in the neighborhood, people on the street, folks, neighborhood groups, street groups. I'm part of all of this here. And before I tell you something real, I check this kind of thing. And now pay close attention because this is the piece that clinches my theory. The Revolutionary Guard itself released a statement and look at the name they gave to this operation. They called it Dark Night for the American radar and air defense systems in the region. Dark Night were the words they used, okay? They claim to have taken American radar and air defense systems in Bahrain off the map. And they say they hit an interceptor battery with missiles and drones at the same time. And again, I treat these reported losses as their claim because independent confirmation hasn't come out and probably won't come out either. What's important isn't the score they're boasting about, but the sentence at the end of the statement. They said very clearly that this offensive is meant to pave the way for broader operations in the future. Take note of that. Read this again, okay? I'll read this again for you. Blinding the radar to pave the way for bigger operations later. That's what they wrote just now. Statement. Official statement from the Revolutionary Guard. This is the strategy of blinding written by the enemy's own hand. I've explained this logic throughout the video, and their statement just confirmed it. Once again, the human cost falls on the American side. The total number of US casualties in this conflict keeps rising, and each name pulls Trump closer to a tough response. Just in the last few weeks, an American network reported that about 100 US service members were injured in Iranian attacks, and that the vast majority, 93%, have already returned to normal duty. 2 American soldiers, as you know, lost their lives. Actually, it was 3 in Jordan. It was because of them that Trump gave the written directive yesterday for the military leadership to prepare a response against Iran. And this is where I ask you to keep that double game in mind again. The same Trump who signs this response directive is the one who also keeps the back channel conversation open. It's happening right now. Guys, hit the like button. I know you just watched. Come in, hit the like button, the thumbs up, share this video, leave your comment here because your comment is extremely important. Fire and conversation at the same time, always both, from both sides. And here comes the most important information of the night, the one that almost no one is connecting to the rest of the story. The Washington Post newspaper reported that months of confrontation with Iran have depleted the American stockpiles of interceptor missiles. Missiles that shoot down other missiles, like those interceptors that take down drones before they hit their target. You know what I mean. And it's not just the interceptor. They're also running low on long-range precision weaponry. And an American government official said something that I need to go over with you carefully. Quote, "The lack of missiles and the damage from the fighting severely limit us, and we can't withstand a confrontation bigger than this." End quote. An American official giving a statement to an American newspaper. I'm not making this up, so just think for a moment about how serious this is. The strongest side on the planet admitting internally that their stockpile is running low. And here, I'm going to be completely honest with you folks, I refuse to fully believe this. I refuse. I know that Israel, which is a tiny country, really small, keeps enough ammunition for years of combat. We have to be ready here for years of combat. And with each passing year, we prove this once again. We're already coming up on 3 years of war, right? More than 3 years of war. 3 years of war, and we still have stockpiles. If tiny Israel, as small as it is, has that kind of endurance, then it's hard for us to believe that the greatest power on the planet is running on empty. It's hard, guys. So I doubt everything, really. I doubt that this shortage is really that big. But I'm sharing this information with you anyway, with my own caveat up front, because it's better for you to hear this from me, with my take on it, than from someone who just reads the headline and twists it for you. And what did America do with all of this, right? What is America doing right now at this very moment? According to this report, they're sending more fighter jets to make up for what they don't have. They're sending more fighter jets and more refueling planes to the region to buy time, and at the same time, they're trying to pursue diplomacy behind the scenes. So now put the two pieces together, right at this very moment. On one side, Iran is peeling away the layers of the region's defenses. On the other, the American shield is under real strain. It's the blinding strategy meeting the perfect moment. The shield wears down exactly when Iran is working hardest to wear it down. And there's an economic factor that humiliates the regime, and I need to show it to you. Iran's proposal has always been clear: to strangle the Strait of Hormuz, drive up the price of oil, and scare the world to force the Americans to stop. Do you remember that? This has always been the Iranian strategy, but that's not what's happening, guys. Oil prices didn't surge as Tehran expected, and the American command publicly shared the numbers since early May. The United States helped about 900 commercial ships and hundreds of millions of barrels pass through the strait. Let me translate that for you. Iran attacked ships, attacked oil tankers, did everything to close that strait, and the water there keeps flowing. The strongest weapon the regime had in its hands simply isn't working this time. So let's keep an eye on the oil price, on Brent. The oil number to watch is Brent, folks. Brent. So keep an eye on it. If the price really jumps up to 120 once again, the game could change. As long as it holds where it is, Iran is losing its biggest bet, Iran's biggest weapon, which is the Strait of Hormuz. But what you've seen so far, I think, is already worth your like, folks. So smash that like button if you forgot to do it. And if you're not subscribed yet, and there are a lot of people who aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Because if you turn on the bell, it's what will let you know when everything starts all over again here in Israel. Share this in your family and work groups. Many people still think it's over or hasn't restarted yet. The rest of the video shows why it's not. This isn't over, guys. It's simply entering a new phase each night. Now the day's mini mystery from the Iranian side. Yesterday, I explained to you here in detail the double game played by the regime with that 10-day pause proposal that the mediators put on the table and are still presenting, denied in public by the regime and examined in secret by the regime. I'm not going to repeat the whole mechanism here because those who watched yesterday already got it. What's different today is this: that pause is still only on paper. It hasn't been announced up until the time this video was recorded, folks. 2:13 in the afternoon. So far, we haven't seen any official announcement about it. So it remains just a proposal and nothing more. In other words, it drifted. And the message from last night is tough for those who are rooting for this proposal. The 10th night was filled with fire from beginning to end, and that so-called pause didn't hold back a single shot. So for now, the hand that shoots is winning over the hand that negotiates. And meanwhile, the fire is spilling over to the neighbors, and this matters for you to understand the scale of the situation. In the early hours, Iran launched drones once again toward Jordan, coming from the west of Iranian territory. Alarms sounded in Jordanian cities, and the Jordanian army reported that it had intercepted 5 drones by the time this video was recorded. There were also reports of loud noises in the east of the country, near Zarqa. Why is this important, you may ask? Why is this important? Because Jordan shares a direct border with Israel, guys, right here, right next to Israel. When the violence starts reaching Jordan so often, day after day, it's getting closer and closer to our doorstep, closer to Israel. And that's exactly why Israel's security systems spent the whole night on alert, ready for any attack that might head in our direction. And now, pay close attention because this is the part that interests me the most today. Pay attention, everyone. Here, the blinding strategy meets a decision that could change the game. The American network Fox News, citing an official US source, reported that President Trump will decide within days whether or not to escalate the confrontation with Iran. And along with it came an assessment that changes the stakes of all this. It's likely that Israel will take part in the operation if Trump decides to significantly escalate. And there was concrete action behind this. American refueling planes were transferred from other parts of the Middle East to Israel for the protection of those planes themselves. More American fighter jets are arriving in the region than before. And just look at the number. The number, guys, pay attention to this preparation. And here comes the assessment from a source, right? An anonymous source, which I'm bringing here as an estimate, not as an official number. He estimates that more than 160 aerial refueling planes have already been assigned to this operation so far. That's more than double what was used in the 40-day war, 160 planes. So when you open that little map of the planes here and you don't see anything at all, they're here. It's just that they've turned off all the information, the transponder, so you can't locate these planes here in the Gulf anymore. They've completely stopped transmitting their position, right? Because there's probably a risk of them being shot down. So the number, according to this source, is huge, guys. 100 to 160 planes, they're gigantic planes. It's a lot. A tanker plane isn't just for operating near the strait or firing in the region. It's designed to cover all of Iran. Guys, it's a tanker plane. It's meant to take the fight deep inside and keep it there for a long time. Waves of attacks deep inside Iran, inside Iranian territory. That's what all this is for. This is the kind of setup you make when the plan is to go far deep inside Iran. And now look at the other side, inside Israel, because here the picture gets more interesting. Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich made it clear that Israel does not want to get involved in the Iran-US confrontation. Look at what he said. Israel has no interest in joining the limited dispute between Iran and the United States. The current situation is the best for us. And this is where the puzzle comes together, my friend. With all due respect to Minister Bezalel Smotrich, I have to disagree with him. This is my interpretation, and it's fine if you disagree as well. Staying out of it now seems like the most comfortable path for us here, for Israel, for us, and I even understand the reasoning behind it. No one wants to jump into the fire unnecessarily. No one wants to get into this war right now without a real need, but I just can't see this as the best scenario for Israel. To me, this is an Iranian trap, because while we stand still, thinking everything is fine, we're going blind. Guys, we're losing the layers of protection in the region. Around us, one by one, without reacting, and that's exactly the blinding strategy they want. Israel sitting unsatisfied while the shield around us disappears. This may look cheap today, but it'll cost dearly later. That's Iran's goal. When the time comes for Israel to step in, it will already be without any layers of protection around it, without the neighbors' radars. And here you need to understand what these radars that are being destroyed do and why, right? Why are they the key to everything? These radars spread out across the countries in the region create a kind of web, a kind of identification network. They can see the missile from very far away, from a great distance, right at the beginning. As soon as it's launched, at the very beginning of the missile's flight, long before it gets close to Israel. That's what gives enough time for the alarm to go off and for you to run to the shelter in time. That time when you get that 15-minute warning that the missile was launched from Iran. Remember that? That's what gives you advance warning, right? The time 15 minutes ahead and the chance to run, and there's enough time to do all that. Remove that network and consider what's left. Alarms going off at the last second with little warning, or sometimes missiles hitting without any alarm, like at the base in Jordan. Remember Jordan? This is already a reflection of what's happening. That missile that hit Jordan wasn't identified, guys. It got through, it passed by all the radars and none of them detected it. The alarms didn't go off at that base. According to reports from the soldiers who were there, no alarms went off. This is very serious. And that's how Iran wants to find Israel on the decisive day, without the radar network around it, with the American shield worn out, depending almost entirely on Israel's interception systems, which are excellent, some of the best in the world. But they also have limits against large barrages coming from several directions at the same time. So, put it all together. The quiet Israel is seeing today on the direct front is not a gift, it's the time Iran uses to wear down the shield around it. That's the trap. And now, in the middle of all this, there's a layer that almost no one is looking at, and it's huge. It's what's happening inside Russia. Guys, why does this matter? Why does this matter to those of you who follow the Middle East? Because Russia is Iran's big behind-the-scenes partner, it's Iran's godfather, and what weakens one affects the other, and Russia is cracking from the inside. There's a fuel shortage in the country. In a dramatic way, there are reports of people waiting in line for hours, 12 hours just to get 10 liters of fuel. There's a diesel shortage for agriculture right in the middle of the wheat harvest, which goes from June to September, and if they don't harvest this wheat, there will be less food on the table for the average Russian. And there was another blow as well. 2 huge distribution centers of Russia's largest online retailer were hit and burned down, with small business owners there losing everything. Guys, all the stock destroyed, all the stock. And what's most curious is that a week before, this company changed the contract saying it wouldn't be responsible for damage caused by drones. In other words, the situation over there is really serious, guys, and the timing raised all kinds of suspicions over there. And the result is that more and more ordinary Russians are recording videos asking why are we in this? Why don't we have any defense? Why is all this happening? And on the other side, the government is tightening control so it doesn't lose its grip, limiting travel abroad and increasing censorship more and more. Everything is gradually heading toward becoming a closed country, the kind that decides what its citizens can and cannot see. Social media blocked. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of them blocked. We don't have access to them anymore. A forbidden word leading to criminal charges and people waking up every day to another restriction. There's a huge tension between 2 movements. The tired people wanting to breathe and the authorities wanting to lock everything down once again. And why am I bringing this up to you? Because the foundation that supports Iran is not solid. The regime's patron is having problems at home, and a weakened patron at home has less strength to support Iran abroad. Remember this, as it will come up again in the next few weeks. And while the Gulf is on fire, there's a front cooling down on our border, and this is really important for you to understand. The US State Department announced that the Lebanese army has started taking over security in 3 villages in southern Lebanon. These are the so-called pilot zones, the result of that negotiation that took place in Rome between Israel and Lebanon, and the idea is to test a handful of villages before expanding the pilot program. The Lebanese army enters, makes sure the area is clear of weapons from the terrorist group Hezbollah, and Israel withdraws in stages, but it will not withdraw from the yellow line, okay? It will not withdraw from the yellow line. We're talking here about the areas, let me put the map up again, about the areas below the Litani River. Okay, Litani, below the Litani River. Let me put this map here, I'll switch it to Lebanon. Look here, we're talking about this part right here. Not the yellow line. Israel stays and doesn't leave this yellow line. It stays here for a long time, for an indefinite period. We're talking about this region here. The pilot project starts in this region, okay? In this area here. So, and just to make it clear, Hezbollah rejected this agreement, but only on paper, because on the ground so far, they are not doing anything to stop this from happening. They are too weak to react. They insist that any arrangement in Lebanon has to be tied to the bigger negotiation between Washington and Tehran, and we know that none of that is happening. In short, Iran's proxy in Lebanon remains under Tehran's control, as usual. I also share a report from a Lebanese source, emphasizing this is their statement, not a confirmed fact. The source says the Israeli army reportedly surrounded an area in the south, right? Here in this region, in the south, where about 200 Hezbollah terrorists were reportedly underground, do you remember this report from before? That still stands, folks, and along with them, important members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. So, if this is confirmed, this is significant, folks. Significant, because if these guys are here, who are these hardliners? Who are these Iranian agents who are trapped in this tunnel along with Hezbollah? Maybe that's what explains Hezbollah's silence, why it isn't doing anything, firing missiles or reacting. Maybe that's where the big answer behind all of this lies. And here I'll wrap up today's thoughts. Everything you've seen points to the same place. Iran stripping away the layers of protection around Israel, one by one, in silence. This isn't just random chaos, it's the strategy of blinding moving across the board. This isn't a story that's ended, it's a story that's just entered a new phase. And before I go, our little Hebrew word for today, folks, for today is shirika. Shirika, I didn't put it up, I didn't write it here today, I forgot to put it here, folks. Shirika is pronounced just as it looks, shirika. It's easy to say and means wear. And wearing down Israel's layers of protection is exactly what Iran is doing, silently or not so silently. Whoever has noticed, has noticed. The analyst here from Israel, this researcher, says exactly that. He says exactly that this is what Iran is doing now, and Israel for now either has noticed and doesn't want to act or hasn't noticed, which is even worse, right? So keep this in mind because you'll see it repeating on the map in the coming weeks. And I'm here, straight from Israel, from the Judean mountains, following every movement, every flight, every decision that will be made in the next few hours. When the next piece falls, I'll return to explain it step by step, connecting everything in a way the mainstream media doesn't. Because a headline on its own, as I've already said, never shows you the whole story. Go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications, share with friends and family, and stay tuned. We'll be back soon. Thanks, Felipe, for the super sticker. It's time for Mossad to stage a false flag according to Felipe. Vera Oliveira, thank you for the super sticker. Classic. Davi, do you think Trump has set aside the midterm elections and American public opinion and is going for total war? No, I believe Trump is still pursuing it. Thanks, Henrique, for the super sticker. I think Trump is still looking for a diplomatic solution, and that's why he hasn't gone for total war yet. That's the real reason. He's still seeking a diplomatic solution to the war, and that's happening behind the scenes. Something is happening behind the scenes to try to move diplomacy forward. And yes, this war should end. It needs to end around September at the latest, folks. September at the latest, because otherwise he'll get even more tangled up with the midterm elections issue. And another thing that's also happening now behind the scenes, remember how the world adapted regarding oil. Iraq is transporting oil through Syria. Through Syria. Look at that, guys. Iraq with hundreds of trucks passing through Syria all the way to the Mediterranean to deliver the oil far away without running the risk of being hit there in the Strait of Hormuz. Saudi Arabia is probably doing the same, right? Toward the Red Sea. In other words, the world is adapting to this situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Yes. Davy, there aren't any radar satellites in space. Elon Musk could create one. It's really hard to detect things from space, right? There are times when you can't see anything at all, so it's hard to track things from space with the same radar precision you have on the ground. Thank you, Lovo, for the super stick. Shalom, Davi. I saw the US report, including Tiago Avila's part. No, I haven't seen anything about that. Davi, I ended up on your list of Mortadevas. I'm not a Mortadeva, I'm right-wing and I support Israel. That's why I want to keep giving my comments. Thank you, Luis Fernando. Why do you think you ended up on the Mortadella list? What do you think? I haven't called anyone Mortadella. Not yet, right? I didn't do that. Let's see if anything is happening now in Iran and Kuwait. What did the Minister of Kuwait say now? For the fourth consecutive day, power and water facilities in Kuwait are being attacked. The Ministry of Kuwait said that several power and water desalination plants across the country were hit by the Iranian attack this Monday. Once again, look, see what's happening, people in Kuwait, and get ready in the Gulf, okay? Countries that are there in the United Arab Emirates, in Qatar, in Bahrain, by water. Because what is happening in Kuwait can also happen in these other countries. And you depend on that water, people. Without those desalination plants, you'll be left without water. Can the energy issue keep some areas running on generators? Absolutely, because there's no shortage of fuel, right, for those countries. So they can keep several neighborhoods running on generators for a long time. But there's no way to get water. Without the plant, there's no water. This is the current live stream. If something more serious happens, I'll come back anytime. Otherwise, I'll be back with another stream tonight. The time here in Israel is about 5 p.m. in Brazil. A hug to all my friends in Israel and see you in the next live stream.